What Singapore was like 45 years ago, and what was your first impressions of the place?
Holland Road was a two-way road. There were almost no high-rise in Orchard Road. Food, almost all Asian food. You could hardly get Western food. Boat Quay was stinking and smelly. Of course, no MRT on that. Buses were very rough, but cars were cheap. I think I got my first car, must be $15,000 or $20,000. Yeah.
No COE.
No COE, no COE. Actually, to be honest, I did to some extent like Singapore more then than now. It felt like an Asian city, although the average Singaporean wasn't as well off as now. But it was a nice atmosphere. But we didn't have amenities. The first condominium was only built about that time. Where we lived in Holland Road, there was no swimming pool near us. We'd have to go to the Terror Club at Sembawang, Navy base, to swim.
Sentosa was already there, so it was just...
Sentosa, you had to come by boat. There was no, but it was not a place you normally went to in those days. So very different to now.
Back then, did you feel that Singapore was already on the rise?
Well, initially, no. When we first came to Singapore, we never knew it was going to go like it was. No, if we'd known, we'd all bought houses in 1978. You know, the house that I rented in those days, a bungalow, 7,000 square foot, was I think about $200,000. No. We eventually bought the same one 4 years later for 700,000. No, but we never knew house prices are going to rocket up. We didn't anticipate, I think, Singapore developing as quickly as it did in those days.
So basically, like buying the property back then, like your first house, it actually helped you to eventually ended up in this place in Sentosa.
Sure, because we made a 10 times profit. I think that even in London, my policy was to buy a house. No, when we first went, we paid £10,000 for a detached house in Rains Park. £10,000, you imagine. We borrowed 9,000. I didn't have much money to spend those days. I did all the electrical wiring myself. I made my own furniture, but that's how life was in those days. No.
What was the biggest difference between life in the UK back then and life in Singapore when you arrived?
Well, I used to commute every day. At times, you know, particularly when the weather's bad, as it usually is in London, everything was so drab. You know, you get on the train, everybody looks miserable. You get to work and you come back at night, everybody looks so miserable, and the whole place was not as lively as this part of the world. I know people would ask, do you ever regret moving here permanently? No, I don't.
No regret?
None at all.